Good evening, listening audience, and this is Talk Black to Me, and I am your host, Sister Freedom, and tonight it is a pleasure for us to have Dr. Umar Johnson in the house tonight. Hey, Dr. Umar.
How we doing, sister?
How you
Glad to
been
be back.
doing?
All has been well. All has been well.
Well, for the listening audience that do not know who you are, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Certainly, I'm Dr. Umar Johnson. I'm a doctor of clinical psychology. I'm also a certified school psychologist and certified school principal. I'm author of the book Psychoacademic Holocaust, the Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys. I'm a school psychologist operating in Pennsylvania primarily, where I evaluate children to determine their special education eligibility. And I do a lot of work with our new organization, the National Independent Black Parent Association. We just finished our third regional training conference in San Diego, California, where we're helping parents organize and fight against racism in the schools in the 7 key areas of special education, school discipline, school finance, school policy, social support, homeschooling, and parent advocacy. And we started that organization in Baltimore in May of 2016 because we have not yet had a national comprehensive organization for black parents that was both independent and that was very serious about helping them fight against racism in the schools. I'm a blood relative of Frederick Douglass. I'm former Minister of Education for Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association. I'm also founder of the Unapologetically African Black College and Consciousness Tour, and we'll be doing our 2nd annual tour this summer from Atlanta, June 28th to July 12th. Anyone out there with a son or daughter, 11 to 17 years old, who would like to go with us on 2 weeks throughout the state of Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama, where they will not only visit historically black colleges, but they will also visit places that are very significant in the African American historical spectrum. So we'll be going to the National Civil Rights Museum, the Selma African Holocaust Institute, the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, the Oyotunji African Village, the Dr. King Center, along with all the different black colleges and universities in those 4 states. So we're looking forward to that. And of course, we're raising money to build the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy for Black Boys. So those are the different projects that we've been working on, and that's what I do as a school psychologist.
How close do you think it is to you getting to school?
Well, we've already set an opening date. We've decided that August the 21st, 2018, which is the anniversary of the Nat Turner War, that's when the school will be open. We're hoping by this August 21st, 2017, when we will experience our first total solar lunar eclipse since 1997. And we're going to celebrate that in Nat Turner land in Virginia, in Druryville, where the revolution took place. That'll be this August 21st, which also happens to be my Earth Day, as well as the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution, as well as the George Jackson War. And so we're hoping this year that we'll have a school August 21st, but next August 21st, we want to open up the school to our young men.
That sounds wonderful. What ages are you starting the school off with?
It's going to depend on the school building that we get, depending on the size. If it's a small school, we can probably only do 2 or 3 grades. So we'll probably be looking to start somewhere between 3rd and 7th grade. If it's a larger school, then we probably can start from K to 9 and then add upwards. But ultimately, we want to have the school go from pre-K all the way through to 12th grade.
Why did you pick the name of the school, Frederick Douglass?
I chose Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey because I consider Frederick Douglass to be the greatest black leader of the 19th century. And I consider Marcus Garvey to be the greatest black leader of the 20th century. And also, when you look at a Frederick Douglass and a Marcus Garvey, you're dealing with the totality of the black ideological political spectrum. So from the Frederick Douglass angle, you have your militant abolitionism. From your Marcus Garvey angle, you have your revolutionary Pan-African nationalism. So our young men can see the total spectrum of black political thought, from the integrationism of a Douglass, who was still a sincere black leader, to the aggressive Pan-Africanism of a Marcus Garvey, who was also a sincere black leader. So we want them to understand the totality of black political ideology and outlook, although the school will be unapologetically African.
It's making me wish my son was back in school again. I'm glad that he graduated now. But wow, this school seems like it's going to be amazing.
Yes, we're looking forward to it. We've been hard at work on it. The 6 core curriculum areas will be agricultural and agronomical science, where we teach the children how to grow their own food. military and political science, where we teach them the science of racism, white supremacy, how the world operates, and also military science, because to really understand political science, you have to understand the role of weaponry and military sophistication in the advance of mankind and in the advance of imperialism, capitalism, slavery, and international monopoly. So when you look at the rise of white supremacy, you're also looking at the rise of military power and conquest concentrated within the hands of the British people. So you cannot deal with political power without dealing with a military power.
Right.
So we will also deal with African spirituality and cosmology, where we would teach the boys and girls the different African spiritual traditions, from Ifa to Voodoo to the Akan system, the Dogon system, the Kemetic system. We want them to understand how African people worship God way before there was anybody by the names of Moses, Muhammad, or Jesus. And that is not to disrespect that, because we respect all religions, but we are fundamentally Pan-Africanist in our outlook. There will also be a financial and economic curriculum where we teach the boys and girls the science of money. They will know how to do their own taxes by the time they finish the 9th grade. They will have mastered real estate by the time they finish the 10th grade. They will be investing in the stock market by the time they finish the 11th grade, and they will have their own business plan by the time they graduate. And the reason that premise rests within the school is because I consider it a grave danger for black people to constantly send our college graduates off to college, our high school graduates off to college, under the presumption that a college education affords you a better opportunity in life. We do need some African-American boys and girls to go to college, but everyone doesn't need to go to college. And as a result of sending every black child to college, we have over 2 million African-Americans with master's and doctorate degrees who cannot find work. They're unemployed. But when you go downtown Wilmington, you will see all the new industrial building projects being built by Chinese labor, Mexican labor, white labor, and on the sideline is all these black men with master's degrees and doctorate degrees who cannot find work and can't get hired on the construction jobs because they don't have the certifications and the licenses. So we're going to teach our young men how to use their head, but also how to use their hands.
I know that's right. This school is absolutely going to be what they call the bomb.
Looking forward to it.
My goodness.
Looking forward to it.
Is it going to be a private school?
Private. It's going to be independent. I'm not a fan of charter school. And one of the things that we're going to talk about here in Wilmington, because we want to invite everyone out to come on out to the Police Athletics League Center here in Wilmington, Delaware, for Black History Month. Dr. Umar Johnson will be speaking. Sister Freedom will be the host, and that will be Saturday, February the 18th. It's a 3 o'clock program. Doors open up at 1 o'clock. We're going to have some opening acts for you. I will speak from 3 until 6, and then after that, I'll sign copies of my book, Psychoacademic Holocaust, The Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys. But one of the reasons that I don't want a charter school is because the charter school movement is a racist movement that was started to defund black inner city public schools, take that money and give it to white people to give white children an independent education on the black tax dollar. And the black community, originally, we fought for community control of the public schools going back to the 1960s. We always wanted control of the schools where our children learn. But unfortunately, when the charter school movement was birthed in 1990, when they offered black community control of public school advocates the opportunity to open up a charter school, many of our elders took the bait for the free money and they gave up on the community control fight, and they accepted the charter school option, because by opening up a charter school, you can now pay yourself a salary, make yourself the CEO, pay yourself a $100,000 salary, even if you never set foot in the school an entire day out the school year. So it was a thirsty and a greedy reason to depart from the community control, go into charter school movement. So that's how they co-opted and crushed the community control movement by offering us charter schools. But the difference is community control allows you to control the school. Charter schools are owned by the state. So the charter school is nothing but another state institution. And in 2015, we saw more black charter schools get shut down in this country than in any period since the charter school movement began, because charter schools were never about us. Excuse me. Now that we have President Donald Trump in office, he has appointed Miss Betsy DeVos of Michigan to head the Department of Education. This is the woman who helped destroy the public school system in Detroit, Michigan. And we're looking at schools in Detroit as well as a possible site for the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, or should we say the first of several Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy campuses. But anyway, Miss Betsy DeVos, who helped destroy the Detroit public school system, Donald Trump has now empowered her to destroy all of the inner city public school systems across these United States. But she's going to add to the charter school movement, she's going to add the voucher school movement as well. So Betsy DeVos wants to defund public schools by giving parents vouchers to take their child to a private school to be educated off the public dollar. Now, the reason I do not support vouchers and the reason why the National Independent Black Parent Association does not support vouchers is because if you're a single mother with 3 children,
Yes.
they give you a voucher for $5,000. You find a private school in Wilmington, Delaware that costs $10,000. You have half of the money from the public school because Miss Betsy DeVos and Donald Trump says here's a $5,000 voucher. But guess what? That's only half the tuition. You still have to come up with another $5,000 for each of your 3 children. Now, with 75% of all black households being headed by single mothers, that means, Sister Freedom, hypothetically, if you have 3 children, you have $5,000 for each. That's 15, but you need another 15. Where are you going to get $15,000 as a single black mother to pay off the balance of that private school education? You won't get it. Which means that the voucher system only benefits who? Middle class, uppity, bourgeoisie blacks. It is not a solution for all black children because most of our children are being raised by working class and poor black women. So it is not a solution. It is a Band-Aid that only caters to the middle class bourgeoisie of Wilmington, Delaware, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Durham, Atlanta, and all the cities. So I do not support vouchers. Now, as a psychologist, I can afford to pay for my 2 daughters to go to a private school, but it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about what is in the best interest of all black children in Delaware. What is in the best interest of all black children in Chester and in Philadelphia, not just a few elitist blacks being able to capitalize off of a racist system that's designed to eliminate public education for all black children.
Wow. You are, I'm sitting here in amazement. But I got to ask you these questions because, you know, people ask me to ask you these questions, and I wish I had the phone where they could call in and ask you a couple questions. But why do public schools classify so many black children with ADHD?
ADHD is a hustle. ADHD is a con game. In my opinion, and I've been working in the schools and as a school psychologist for almost 20 years, ADHD does not even exist. We get ADD in 1980. In 1980, the American Psychiatric Association gave birth to a diagnosis known as attention deficit disorder, ADD, 1980. That's no coincidence. That's the same year that the CIA dropped crack off in the black community. So the same year they started drugging adult blacks in our community, they started doping up the children at the same time. In 1987, ADD became ADHD. Why did they add the unholy H? The reason they added ADHD from ADD is because there's no drug that can make your child pay attention. So the drug companies were not making enough money off of pure ADD diagnosis because there's no drug that can make you focus. The drugs can only arrest the brain and force neurological activity to cease. So the drug companies influenced the American Psychiatric Association to transform ADD to ADHD so you can now justify medicating every black child. And a black boy is over 10 times as likely to be diagnosed and referred for medication management than a white kid is. A black boy is more likely to receive more than one medication to deal with his ADHD. Because you hear black parents who say, well, what's the problem? White kids are diagnosed with ADHD too. That's true. But white kids are not abused by the medicine. Their administration of the medicine is more comprehensive. It is more efficient. It is more effective. With black kids, all they do is keep on upping the dosage to toxic levels, and you're more likely to find a black kid who's taking 2 and 3 drugs. One drug for ADHD, another drug for anger, another drug for depression, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're seeing our children literally.
Does it make them dopey, sleepy?
Well,
they can't concentrate?
The Drug Enforcement Agency of America, the DEA, classifies Ritalin, which is the #1 most prescribed psychiatric med for children. Ritalin is classified as a Schedule B drug. That means Ritalin is in the same category as cocaine and opium. Let me say that again. According to the Drug Enforcement Agency of the United States government, Ritalin is a Schedule B, Schedule II drug, which means it's in the same category as cocaine and opium for addiction and abuse potential. And this is what we give black boys long enough so they can sit still to be miseducated by middle-class white women from Delaware while they learn about Christopher Columbus.
What about, does it affect them when they get
It
older?
kills brain cells.
That's what I'm wondering.
It can affect your ability to reproduce, have children. It can cause psychotic disorder, suicidal ideation, homicidal tendencies, blood problems, tic disorders, heart problems, kidney liver malfunction, strokes, what else? Heart attacks. The list is extensive. And if you go to the website of any one of these drugs, whether it's Ritalin or Adderall, Concerta, Vyvanse, Strattera, you look at any of the websites and they clearly tell you what the side effects are. But they also mislead you by saying that these side effects have only been realized in a small percentage of the children who take this medication. But I can tell you, working with the children, I don't know of a child who's ever been prescribed a psychiatric medicine for a disruptive behavior disorder who has not experienced the side effect. I know of one kid who I know of personally who cannot control his drool, his saliva. He's a teenager. The ADHD meds fried his brain so much because, remember, it's brain damage. It disrupts the natural process of the brain. So when he's salivating, he don't even know saliva is running down his mouth because the neurological receptors that are responsible for telling you something's coming out of your mouth no longer work in him because of taking the medicine.
What I don't understand is there have been parents that I have talked to that have heard everything that you're saying right now and will still give their child
couple reasons for that
medication. I mean, I would think that our children were hyper-natured. Anyway, we are, we're just naturally athletic. And I don't know, could you please tell me why would a parent still do that?
I give you 5 couple things, and I talk about these in my book. But number 1, black people come from a heritage, because you have to put this in historical context. We come from an experience in this country where we've always been told that white is right and black is wrong. So still operating under that hypnosis of white supremacy and enslavement, the average black parent is going to believe whatever their child's white teacher tells them because we've all been indoctrinated to believe that white is right. So number 1, we have the hypnosis of racial domination. That's number 1. Black parents listen to whatever white people tell them, period.
I don't understand it.
That's number 1. Number 2, when you're a single black mother raising multiple children on your own, you're doing the best you can, working 2 and 3 jobs, and the school keeps calling you about your son's behavior. You don't want to put him on drugs because in some cases you may be a recovering addict yourself, so you know firsthand what these drugs do to your child. But if the school keeps on calling you up and you have to keep taking off work early to go and get your son, you're now at risk of losing your job, which means your family is now at a risk of being homeless or hungry. And it's not fair for a black mother or father to have to choose between their family being hungry and homeless or putting their son on dangerous psychiatric meds. But a lot of mothers without the necessary social support or knowledge of the psychoacademic Holocaust end up allowing the medication so the school can stop harassing them to come up there and get their son. But what we need parents to understand is that the school cannot harass you to keep on coming up to school to get your son. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about at the Police Athletic League here in Wilmington, please come out Saturday, February the 18th, is I'm going to make sure the parents are equipped with some laws. There's certain laws that black parents need to know that they can use, take with them into the school system so they can more effectively advocate for their children. Okay, so that's a second. The third thing, because so many of our boys are being raised by women, I don't think mothers do a good enough job administering consistent, simple discipline practices at home. Our mothers are too easy on their boys. They raise their daughters, but they love their sons. And to be very honest with this point, I would say that every mother watching this here, you're a black mother raising black boys, you really have to ask yourself a sincere question, and that is, are you raising your son? Are you raising your son to be the exact type of man that you yourself would never want to marry? Because one of the ironies of the black community is so many mothers are turning their sons into the same type of dysfunctional black male that she complains about having in her life. So the karma is you raise a deadbeat, you meet a deadbeat.
And that's
So
true.
we have to recognize the role of women in the deadbeat male phenomenon, because so many women have spoiled their son so badly that he don't think he has to work. He don't think he has to clean. He don't think he has to achieve. He literally is looking for a woman to take care of him, just like his mama did all his life.
This is true. And I had to put the hammer sign. This is true. But does this also go back to the Willie Lynch? How
It
the
does.
mother would protect, you know, and this is one of the papers at, I'm going to ask you, do you mind me handing out the Willie Lynch, a copy of the Willie Lynch
No,
at the
it's
event?
good to hand it out.
Because a lot of our children and parents have never even heard of the Willie Lynch letter. So they don't even realize that they have the Willie Lynch chip turning like a robot in their backs.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Very much so.
I can say I'm one myself that is, and you know, I've spoken to you about this before. I'm very overprotective of my son. And I was raised in the old school. You understand? I never seen a man clean up and, you know what I'm saying, and do things that I see that the men are doing now, cooking and washing dishes and washing clothes. I wasn't raised up in that, you know, in that air. The women did that type of thing. Nowadays, the men are doing it. So me, it may have appeared that I was spoiling my son, but I just never seen it, so I didn't raise my son. Now, I have the type of son that really doesn't want a woman to work. He wants to work and be able to take care of his woman. I'm going to have to say I'm very proud of my son.
Yes, I think
for
that's
that.
fine.
He is
I think
against
that's
any
fine.
type of like cheating or anything like that. So, I mean, I'm a single parent, and I'm trying to do, you know, the best I can do. But then here, listening to what you are saying, God, I really still do have
Well,
a
see,
lot to learn.
When we talk about miseducation, the miseducation of the black male, one of the reasons why the community has to get a handle on this is because the miseducation and economic castration of black males is causing other types of crises in the black community. It's affecting the black male-female relationship situation in a major way. For example, black women are the only women in America who out-earn and out-educate their partners. No other woman in America can say I make more money as a group than the men of my culture. No other woman can say I have more education than the men of my culture. But that's true for black women because the American social order has deliberately decided to overeducate and overemploy black women and undereducate and underemploy black males. Now, it's important for black men to understand it is not our sisters' fault. They are not the enemy. But likewise, it is important for black women to understand that it is not the black man's fault as well for his situation. Surely he can do some things different. But if you're going to blame this whole thing on character, if you're going to say that the black man is in a predicament that he's in because he has bad habits, then you don't understand racism. Because oppression and opportunity cannot be mentioned in the same system. You either live in a society that provides you with opportunities to get a decent education and get a decent job, or you live in a society that oppresses you and makes it difficult for that type of thing to take place. You see, and one of the things that I also feel that has to be fought for along these same lines is we have to fight for an expungement of the record of black men and black women who have already paid their debt to society 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later. Why is a prison record that they served 20, 30 years ago for a nonviolent offense still being held against them, preventing them from finding work, going to college, getting food stamps, tapping into public housing? It's almost like once a criminal, you will always be incriminated. And for African Americans, we have an 87% recidivism rate. Most of our men, women, and children who go to jail are likely to return, not because they want to keep on breaking the law, but there are no serious programs for an ex-offender, returning citizen in any cities where black people live that give them an honest shot at changing their life. America has set it up. So once a black man fails once, they try to make it so that he fails forever. So we have to fix the schools. But one of the most disheartening things for me when I look at this situation, Freedom, is the fact that we complain about the public school system, but in 2016, black people spent $600 million on McDonald's. We can complain about special ed, but in 2016, black women spent $9 billion on weave and perm. We complain about ADHD, but in 2016, black people spent $4 billion on liquor and booze. We talk about the medicine and the suspension and the expulsion and the fact that our kids can't read, but we spent $2 billion on Air Jordans. So you have to look at how we as a people have the financial ability to fix this miseducation problem, but we have greater priorities that are based on outdoing the next black person. We would rather spend our money on pocketbooks, weaves, perms, white women, expensive cars, trucks, Timbs, and Air Jordans than build our children the type of school that they need to succeed. Now, there's certain systems in this country you cannot create a duplicate. You cannot create a duplicate criminal justice system, okay? You cannot create a duplicate family system, necessarily speaking. You cannot create a duplicate prison system, but you can create a duplicate school system.
Yeah, you can.
The law allows you to build your own schools for your children. Why don't we have them yet? Because no matter how much we talk about how the schools don't care about black children, we don't care about black children either.
And we got this thing about every time somebody is trying to do something to assist us, we pull the person down. That's one thing that I just cannot understand, overstand, understand. It absolutely makes no sense to me.
Remember,
none at all.
From a psychological standpoint, when you are conditioned and indoctrinated,
that's what it is.
When you are conditioned and indoctrinated to believe a certain way, your subconscious operates under an assumption of bias where you're always looking to confirm that which you believe. So black people, having already been programmed to hate, are also programmed to confirm why they need to hate self. So you're always looking to destroy any other African who's trying to bring about a positive change, because that runs counter to what you've been told you are about.
Yes.
You see, so it's not just a belief, it's a need to confirm the belief. It's just like if you're Christian, you have a certain set of beliefs. You need to confirm those beliefs. You're Muslim, you have a certain set. You're Pan-Africanist, you have a certain set of beliefs. You're Hebrew, you have a certain set of beliefs, for good or for bad. Psychologically, your mind is primed to find information to validate the belief, because your ego does not like to be challenged about the things that it believes. Your ego does not like to be challenged about the things that it believes, even if the things that it believes are not in the best interest of yourself.
That is the truth.
And that's why we need our own schools, because the purpose of a school is not to teach. Yes, you teach, but that's not the major function. The major function of a school is to socialize. Children who go to a Jewish school are taught how to function in the best interest of the Jewish people. If you go to a Catholic school, you're taught how to function in the best interest of Catholic people. You go to an American public school, you're taught how to function in the best interest of white racist America.
Yes.
So our children are reared, indoctrinated, taught, and socialized on how to serve a white racist social, political, economic order. They're not taught, indoctrinated, and socialized on how to fix the problems of black people. If you want to fix the problems of black people, you have to build black schools that teach black children how to do that. Our children have to be taught how to work with each other. Our children have to be taught how to get along with each other. Our children have to be taught, above any and all things, to be loyal to their own community.
That's right.
Without loyalty, if a child has not been taught loyalty, he's been miseducated. Because anything you learn, if you have not been taught loyalty, can be used against your community. Barack Obama, he's done some things against African people because he wasn't taught loyalty. All the degrees don't matter. Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice, all the degrees don't matter. If you don't teach a child loyalty, anything else you teach as the child will be used in a disloyal way against his own community.
And that is true. One thing I can say about myself that I am proud of myself is my son. I homeschooled him all the way up till he was in high school. And the worst thing I did was to put him in school. It was such a switch. I could not believe it. This child that was been taught black history, I brought him up in a Islamic, strong black home. Everywhere he turns around in my home, you see nothing but Africa. It's just, I wanted it just in him. I just wanted him to know. I had him memorize everything from the Nation of Islam, all the teachings, memorize it, okay? I had him memorize whatever I could teach him from Islam, things that I taught from the Nuwaubian Nation that I learned, from that was taught from the Nuwaubian Nation that I thought was good for him. Just teaching him everything that was embedded in Black history. The worst thing I did to my son was sent him to public school when he got in 9th grade. But I didn't want him to be in a state of mind of socializing, that he didn't get the opportunity. Even though I've always felt that girls and boys should not be in the same classroom together until they are ready, until they are taught to be able to be in the same classrooms with each other, because we know nature will take her course. And automatically they will come together. And I say, to the schools, when they used to call me about my son, he's a handsome guy, the playing with the girls and the girls playing with him. I'm saying, well, we can't blame nobody but ourselves. We got them in the schools together. But in all reality, I knew in my heart that it wasn't right yet. It wasn't time yet. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I don't necessarily disagree with it, but here's what I would say. Because I'm not against boys and girls learning in the same classroom. I do think there's times where they must be separated.
Yeah.
Because there's an education that a woman has to get that a boy should not be privy to.
Okay.
And there's an education that a boy should get that a woman should not be privy to. So there's both co-ed classes, and then there's single ed classes as well. So yes, there's a combination though.
Yeah.
So for example, math, that can be co-ed. But when you're talking about life skills, family planning, marriage, those types of things, which I also feel need to be taught in our schools.
Yes.
Because if you notice, the most important thing in the Black community is family, but you're never taught how to build one. And so you have men who have never had fathers, and they have to take on this obligation of becoming one without any type of direction or supervision. You have young ladies who want to become mothers and wives, but yet they've never seen healthy examples in their own life. So how can the Black community understand that the survival of our family is one of our critical crises going forward in the 21st century, but yet we provide no opportunity for people to receive the type of support, coaching, and instruction that allows you to build a family, which is why at the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, one of our curriculums will be community and family. We're going to teach the children how to be fathers, how to be husbands, how to be mothers, how to be wives, and of course there'll be women there to do that. But we have to teach nationhood if you want to see a healthy nation. An education that is not focused on teaching Black children the art of how to acquire, maintain, and protect power is automatically a miseducation. It doesn't matter if the child graduated with straight A's and B's. It doesn't matter if they was valedictorian. It doesn't matter if they was class president. If you graduate from high school and you don't understand white supremacy, how it operates, and how to destroy it, you've been miseducated.
That is true. And another thing I wanted to ask you is, will the school be teaching the kids on, the young men, I'm going to say that from the gate, on law? Because they need to, the reason why I'm asking you that, Dr. Umar Johnson, is because they need to know what a police officer can do and can't do. I want them to be able to attorney themselves when they're in a situation.
That will be our political and military science curriculum.
Okay.
But we will teach law as a consequence of power, not law as a solution. Because within the Pan-African paradigm, we do not believe that you can use law to free Black folks. We don't believe that. There's no precedent for that in history. But we do believe that it has its place, and we do believe that it is a consequence of power, so we will teach it, because I think it is very important that they know it. As a school psychologist, the help that I give to Black parents is based on the law. So you got to have the law to successfully navigate your life, but we will teach it as a consequence of power, which is to say, laws are created by those in power to protect their privilege that they enjoy at the top. So if you have the power, you create the law. So I want our children to amass the power that gives them the prerogative to create the law versus always being an interpreter and victim of that law. Law, LAWS, is an acronym that stands for Legal Arm of White Supremacy. And whenever you master it, they automatically change and switch it. If it's not an education,
they do always change.
They change and switch it. If it's not an education for liberation, it's automatically an education for miseducation. There's no such thing as a school that half educates. The school either educates or it does not. And the problem in America is not only are the schools not interested in the best interests of Black children, the Black community isn't even interested in building schools that are in the best interests of Black people. Which is why one of the things we have to teach at FDMG is how to love yourself as an African, how to be proud of this, because the average behavior of an African American is dedicated towards escaping their African reality. We want to be everything except who we are, which is why Marcus Garvey said race first. We identify as African people first because that is the only biological, spiritual identifier you have that came with you when you were born into this world. Everything else you choose to be. You choose your religions, you choose your fraternities, you choose your sororities. You don't choose to be black. It is organic. It is organic and it is eternal. It is unreproachable. And because of that, we have to rally around it instead of running away from it. But the truth of the matter is what? The average black person in America, if he or she could opt out, would change their race tomorrow if they could do it and nobody know that they did it. We hate who we are so much. I mean, $9 billion on weave and perm. And I don't blame black women for that exclusively. I blame black men, because black women want to look like that which they feel black men are attracted to. So if the sisters perceive that brothers only want to deal with a sister with a yellow, with a blonde head of hair, then she gonna go and get the blonde weave, okay? If she perceives that a black man only wants to deal with a woman who's skinny and has that European skinny body type, which I don't personally like, but that's what she's gonna look like. So black women are trying to make themselves look like that which they feel black men are attracted to, and unfortunately, too many black men are attracted to European women. Black men are more likely to marry outside of their race more than the men of every other race in America put together. It's a statistical fact.
Wow.
What is it about the educated black man and the white woman? What is that there? It's a self-hate. The reason the black man dates the white woman is because he feels inferior to the white male. And by marrying the white man's woman, it gives him a sense of psychological equality with the black male. In other words, his marriage to the white woman is a compensation for his inferiority complex. And Frantz Fanon talked about this in his book, Black Skin, White Mask, which everybody should read. Every black man married to a white woman or dating one should read it, where Frantz Fanon, who was married to a white woman, ironically, he had a white wife, but he told the truth. He told the truth in his book, okay, one of our foremost revolutionary socialists, and he talked about the inferiority complex that lies at the heart of black men who marry white, which is a shame because black women are now in a situation where most of them will never ever get married. Only 1 out of every 4 black women gets married in America. 1 out of 4. 1 out of 4. So it's important that we teach our sons and daughters to be loyal to home, because this multiculturalism, which is at the heart of black political behavior today, is killing us because the average black person is not loyal to things black. You are loyal to everybody. When you talk to the average black person, you say we want to do something for black people in Wilmington. What's the first thing they say? I don't just want to help black people. I want to help everybody.
To save my life.
What they really are trying to tell you is I don't want to help black people at all.
Right.
But if you're trying to save somebody else, then you have my vote. Go to a Chinese and ask the Chinese if he's interested in helping anybody but the Chinese first. Go to the European Jews, go to the Arabs, go to the East Indians, go to the Native Americans, go to the Italians, go to the Irish, and ask them, are you interested in helping other people as much as you're interested in helping your own people? No, sir. Everyone has a natural in-group bias. Everyone has a natural in-group bias. By nature, you're inclined to look out for your own in-group.
That's true.
First, it's natural. A bird is going to look out for a bird before it look out for a squirrel. A lion going to look out for a lion before it look out for a giraffe, because everyone has a natural in-group bias. But slavery destroyed the natural psychological in-group bias of African people, where we're more concerned with saving others than saving ourselves. For example, there's not a single black organization in America, mainstream. I'm not talking about the conscious organizations. They're not mainstream. Mainstream, reputable black organizations, you can't name one of them who's exclusively dedicated to helping black people. The Congressional Black Caucus revised its mission statement. The Congressional Black Caucus is now dedicated to helping everybody. All of our 9 fraternities and sororities are dedicated to helping everybody. The NAACP is dedicated to helping everybody. The Urban League is dedicated to helping everybody. Our black churches are dedicated to helping everybody. Our black masjids are dedicated to helping everybody. We're the only group in America who don't have a single mainstream organization that is 100% unapologetically dedicated to solving the problems of black folks. And that's why we did last. Because the Chinese Association is only about Chinese. The Indian Association is only about Indians. The Arab Association is only about Arabs. The Jewish organization, you will never catch a black person in a synagogue a day in your life. But for us, we have to love everybody before we love ourselves.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
And so true, though.
Everything is so true.
And it's dysfunctional behavior. Listen, we are in the start of our fourth 50-year period since the end of slavery. The first 50-year period since the end of slavery was 1865 to the start of the Marcus Garvey Movement, 1915. Our second 50-year period was 1915 to the heyday of the Civil Rights Movement, 1965. Our third 50-year period was 1965 until the end of the Barack Obama presidency. We're now going into our fourth 50-year period since the end of slavery, which is 2015 to 2065, which will be our bicentennial of Negro freedom, so-called black freedom in America. What are we doing? When you go from 1865 to the Garvey movement, black people was starting their own businesses, building their own communities, fighting against the KKK. You go from the second 50-year period from 1915, okay, to 1965, the Civil Rights Movement, the Freedom Riders, the sit-ins, Black Power. Even if you go from, when you go from 1965 until 2015, that's when you begin to see the decline of black political organization, because that's when they use chemical warfare. They didn't use chemical warfare against black people until our third 50-year period after slavery. 1965 to 2015, this past 50 years, the period in which most of us were born, living now, and where many of our parents were children. This is the period of chemical warfare. After the FBI murdered Dr. King, they decided that we could never again let the black freedom struggle rise to the height that it had risen to. And they sat down and they decided, what are we going to do to control black folks forever now? And somebody said, feed them the dope. Use chemical warfare. And if you notice, ever since crack hit the black community, our political, economic organizations have never been the same. We've never had the same unity. We've never had the same confidence. We've never had the same trust. We've never had the same love. Chemical warfare dissipated the black power energy. And then along with that, the government created a class of black bourgeoisie Negroes. So you got the chemical warfare, and then you have this new elitist class of blacks, well educated by the government to do what? Serve as gatekeepers of the power structure to keep black people dumb, deaf, and blind away from change. Let me give you an example. In Wilmington, any city, y'all have a black bourgeoisie. That black bourgeoisie is concentrated in 5 major families. You have the economic bourgeoisie. These are black people in Wilmington. They have money, they have businesses, okay? They have access to wealth, but they do not use their wealth to help build the infrastructure of black Wilmington. They simply use their wealth to flaunt it in front of blacks and to carbon copy the social life of white folk. Then you have the education bourgeois. These are Negroes in Wilmington. They work for the school districts. They work for the universities, the high schools. They don't give our children a proper education. They give them a proper education to fit within a white reality. And then when they're ever asked why black children are struggling, they don't tell the truth. They simply say they're struggling because their pants are sagging, the daddy ain't there, the mom ain't married. They make excuses. The reason black kids aren't learning is because you're not teaching them. White women should not be responsible for black boys' success.
At all.
White women should not be responsible for black boy success. The black boy is struggling not because he doesn't want to learn, but he has to deal with racism times sexism. First of all, let's be honest. Women suffer a lot of sexism in America, but in the school system, they dominate it. The principal might be a male, but all 97% of teachers in America are women, and 93% of that 97% are white women.
Yes.
So when it comes to schools, women are in the power position. So your son has to deal with sexism. He's a boy who has to function in a female-dominated working environment, and then he's black. So now he has to deal with sexism multiplied by the racism. He's not just black, he's a boy. He's not just a boy, he's black. So he's literally being blackmailed by Wilmington schools against getting an effective education.
Wow.
See, the black boy has to deal with racism times sexism. No boy should be asked to sit still for 7 hours a day. That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
A boy can sit still for 7 hours a day. A girl can sit still for 7 hours a day. Now, when the boy starts going through pre-puberty and puberty, he really can't sit still because the testosterone is firing. And testosterone is an energy hormone. Testosterone is an energy hormone. So when a boy goes through puberty, he's more active. He needs to get up. He needs to stretch. He needs to run because he's growing. When a girl goes through puberty and she begins to get her menses and her internals begin to form in such a way that allows her to carry child a few years later, she does what? Sleep. When
Yep.
girls go through adolescence, they sleep. So they can sit still for 7 hours a day because they tired anyway. But when a boy goes through adolescence, he's got to get up and run. But when you at a school that's dominated by women who don't care about the fact you're a boy or that you're black,
Right.
then your needs never get met. And not only that, you get blamed.
Get blamed.
When the school can't educate you, on top of the fact that the school probably doesn't have recess or a gym class. So let me get this right. You're teaching growing boys in a school full of women, no men whatsoever. You have no gym, no recess, and you want to blame him because you haven't created a safe and constructive outlet for his natural energy. It's sick that boys are being made the scapegoat on a system that was never designed to meet their needs in the very first place.
And the crazy part about it is, and I've said this to McKean High School, but you know what the crazy part about it is I hate the most is when there's a principal or a black teacher or a black principal who you can tell is a bootlicker.
Oh, every district has them.
Oh my
No, that's
God.
by design.
You can tell
That's
that
by
they are a
design.
bootlicker.
There's not a school district where
It's
black
ridiculous.
children dominate where they don't have a dozen of hand-picked house Negroes,
House niggas.
dashiki, shea butter, the whole nine, because they use them to earn black parents' trust and motivate black parents to make decisions against their children's best interests that their gut instinct is telling them not to make. And the first thing I want to tell your parents, number one, when you go into the school about your child, never go by yourself. Always take somebody with you. And we're going to talk about this. So make sure y'all come out Saturday, February 18th, Wilmington, Delaware, 2017 Black History Month, Police Athletic League. Doors open up at 1, lecture at 3 o'clock, book signing at 6. But 5 quick points for your parents. Number one, never go to a school meeting by yourself. Mothers, stop going alone. They keep going alone. Fathers, stop. Why should you not go to a school meeting about your child alone? Because the school can bully you, intimidate you, coerce you, force you, falsify your documents, lie about what happened. You're talking to a principal and a psychologist. I know how the schools operate. I know how they operate. And when a mother is in there by herself with no witness, they're going to have her way with her. Always take somebody with you when you go to the school. Number two, do not get your child evaluated for special education, not the learning disability or ADHD. No learning disability evaluations unless you believe as the parent that something's wrong with your child. I don't care what the teacher believes. I only care what you believe. Do you feel your son has a reading disability? Now, let me tell you what's really going on, Sister Freedom. He doesn't have a reading disability. He's never been taught how to read.
Wow.
See, most of our children never receive adequate phonics instruction. They don't teach phonics in the school anymore. They stopped teaching that when we went to school. And the reason they don't teach phonics in the school anymore is because phonics is labor intensive. To really make a good reader, you got to put a lot of energy into phonics-based education. For example, when you went to school, I went to school. And I went to Meade Elementary School in North Philadelphia. Miss Robinson, my 5th grade teacher, would walk in. Miss Mack, my 4th grade teacher. Even Ms. Lube, 6th grade, who was white but a good teacher. They would put the letter A on the board. This is phonics. You put the letter A. And the whole classroom had to sound out all the different sounds that A made. So they had you saying ah, all day. Next day, the letter B. Ba, buh. And then the next day, she put the A with the B. Ab. And she did this for every alphabet, but by the time she was done, you could read any word because she made sure you mastered the phonemic sounds in every letter. They don't do that no more. What they have now is what they call whole language. So the teacher puts the whole word on the board. She don't teach you how to sound out nothing. She put the whole word encyclopedia, and she's basically teaching you how to memorize words, not how to read, how to memorize and regurgitate. The school system is a shamble. And what black people need to understand is we have no sense to be wanting black kids to catch up or keep up with white kids when America's white children are ranked 24 out of 26 when compared to the most industrialized nations in America, 24 out of 26. So if we only want black kids to catch up with white kids, then we're basically saying we're content with our children being at the bottom. So don't get the kids evaluated unless you believe something is wrong with them. You should never let a second, third, first, or kindergartner be evaluated for a reading disability, a learning disability. That is ridiculous. How can a first grader have a learning disability? He just start learning.
Yeah.
How can a second grader have a learning disability? She just start learning. How can a fourth grader have a learning disability? How can somebody in kindergarten have a reading disability? He don't even know his letters yet. Come on, y'all. This is where the parents have to wake up. And another thing, if you don't believe in psychiatric medicine, you don't believe in ADHD. If you don't believe in if you are not going to give your child dope to learn, then you should not give him an ADHD evaluation. Why? Because if you get your son evaluated for ADHD and you decide you're not going to medicate, the school can complain to Child Protective Services. And Child Protective Services can remove all of your children from the home on the charge of medical neglect. Failure to medicate your children is a cause for a child abuse charge, and they will take the children out of your house. In 2014, the #1 reason black parents lost their children, most increased reason, was failure to medicate for ADHD.
But also the parents get paid. Don't the parents
Well, yes, you get you can qualify for an SSI check if the child has the diagnosis, but it's not automatic. What parents need to understand is when your child gets evaluated by Wilmington City Public Schools and they're labeled with a learning disability, you then take that learning disability evaluation to the Social Security office, and their psychiatrist has to reevaluate your child. In other words, the school's evaluation does not qualify you for SSI. You have to give that over to the Social Security psychiatrist, and they determine whether or not the disability is extensive enough to justify the supplemental income for the disabled. So you can have a child in special ed and not get the money, which is why black parents need to stop hustling their children. It doesn't make any sense, and they do it on purpose. And you can always tell the ones who hustling. I had a case at an Afrocentric middle school in Philadelphia where the parents asked their 3 sons to act like they were retarded for the purpose. No, this is a true story. And this was an Afrocentric dashiki shea butter school where they asked, the parents told the 3 sons to act like they were retarded during my evaluation. So I'm sitting there giving them the IQ test, and he getting questions wrong that I know he know,
right?
That a little kid would know. And I go to the principal. I said, yo, these kids is playing dumb. And guess what the principal told me? Principal said, we know.
Wow.
They told me they knew. They said, these children are diagnosed as retarded, all 3 sons. And you know, the mentally retarded children, which is now known as intellectual disability, they get the highest Social Security money. So these parents had their children deliberately playing like they were intellectually disabled so they could get the highest Social Security disability check that the state would offer for 3 children.
Wow.
We talk about 12 years of slave. How about 12 years of public school system? Oh, but not only that. Not only that.
And pimping their kids.
The school pimping special ed, parents pimping SSI, the mental health establishment is pimping everybody because the average child getting behavioral health services, mobile therapy services, behavior specialist services, they're worth $100,000 to the mental health agency. One black child is worth $100,000 to the mental health agency. How committed do you think they are to rectifying that boy's behavior problems when he's worth $100,000 a year? There is no mental health service. There's only a mental health hustle. Let me say it again. There is no mental health service. There's only a mental health hustle. And then when they take the black kids out of the black home, they give them to people outside of our community with alternative lifestyles to raise our children. So now our children are being raised by people who don't look like them and who operate under a family system that is foreign to them. See, black kids are least likely to be adopted by black people, so they're more likely to be adopted by other people. And that's a big fault on ours because we got tens of thousands of black children in the foster care system who are looking for homes and can't find them because black people don't care about nobody but black people. And we are the most selfish people in the world.
Dr. Umar, with the foster care program, even if you try to become a foster mother,
they make it very hard.
They make it
if you're black, they make it very hard. You got to jump through 30 hoops, do 1,000,000 push-ups.
Yes, you do.
I knew a grandmother. I knew a grandmother tried to get possession of her son, legal custody. The mother was on drugs or whatever. They said they had to do a criminal background on grandmom's husband, who's 65. And the criminal background revealed that grandmom's husband, who's 65, committed a petty crime when he was 18. and because of a crime he committed almost 50 years ago, her son can't come live with them.
And it could be a black social worker, and she will have the nerve to allow what you just said to happen.
Yeah. But
and
the
that
white folks don't
child-
go through that.
And the child is still in one of those institutions.
Group homes where they're
homes.
being sexually abused by the group workers and fellow group children in the group home. It's sick.
Unbelievable.
It's sick that
We
you
are
take
our
a
own- we could say sometimes that we are our own worst enemy.
never.
Sometimes.
We're our second worst enemy.
Okay, second worst enemy.
Racism is the number one enemy, and we must
Okay.
never let them off the hook. You did not invent AIDS. You did not invent mass incarceration. You do not control the school system. You do not control the criminal justice system. You cannot be your own worst enemy because you do not control the institutions through which black life is being destroyed. To be the worst enemy, you have to control the institutions that are destroying us.
Yeah, but the black devil's the worst devil. The black people, or some black people, I'm not going to say all, allowing these things to happen. And
They
when you
do.
bring it to their attention, and they'll say, well, this is just how it is.
But here's the issue.
This is my job.
But here's the
or-
issue. Don't reduce it to the individuals. Just like you don't reduce racism to individual white folks. Racism is institutional, it's systematic. All white people participate in it. It's the same thing with black oppression. It's not about this social worker. It's not about Barack Obama. It's not about Oprah Winfrey. It's about the black community has a social system that rewards sellouts
Yes.
and punishes freedom fighters. Think about it.
Exactly.
When Malcolm X was murdered, what did the black community do for Betty and those children? When Dr. King was murdered, what did the black community do for Betty and those children? When Medgar Evers was murdered, what did the black community do for Myra Lee and those children? When Huey P. Newton was murdered, what did the black community do for his children? Nothing. But the Jay-Z concert will be sold out. The Beyonce concert will be sold out. If I'm a child, and that's no slight on them, I'm just using them as celebrity examples. I don't know what they do. Maybe they do some good. I heard Jay-Z's Rock Nation is all black. I just heard that yesterday at Bowie State. Brother said he visited Rock Nation, and Jay-Z's whole infrastructure is black. And if that's the case, I give kudos to the brother. But we have to look at how we as a people raise and socialize our children collectively to abandon their communities. The average African American is a sellout who has not yet been given an opportunity to manifest their traitorous behavior.
But it's a shame that we have to be put in a position where we would have to be so desperate as to sell out our brother or sister.
You have an
or
option.
Our child.
You have an option, and the option is to build your own independent communities like you used to have. Even when you study Rosewood and Tulsa and Charleston, you'll find that even after the white folks burned it to the ground, those black people came back, rebuilt it, but their children, check it out now, after they rebuilt, 2 generations later, the children and the grandchildren did not want to live in an all-black community, so they sold them off. Yes, many of those communities were rebuilt and abandoned by their descendants who they did not indoctrinate with the same type of race pride that they have.
Wow.
We can do, listen, nothing is multicultural about America. Everybody who comes to America to build a cultural empire.
Yes.
The Chinese are building a cultural empire. European Jews, cultural empire. Arabs, cultural empire. I'm at the Masjid in North Philly where I was born and raised. Masjid Mecca, 13th and Susquehanna. Used to be owned by the nation before Wallace took it over. We in there making salat years ago. And the brothers, the black Muslim brothers, Sunni Orthodox, is talking about how we're going to help paint the mosque up with the Arab brothers. We're going to paint our mosque up together. And we all family with the Arabs. And I said, can you answer me one question, my brother? These Arabs got all these gas stations.
No.
These Arabs got all these gas stations. Now, y'all brothers, right? We all Muslim. We Muslim. He Mukmeen Muslim. And the Arabs ain't helped the blacks get one gas station in Philly while they got 30 of them. And you're going to talk about we all Muslim brothers.
And you can go in their stores and
Stop
they don't have nobody
using
black working
religion
there.
as an excuse to not see the racial reality under which we live.
That's true.
And
That
the
is
reason we
true.
don't want to see, the reason we handcuff the integration, the reason we handcuff the multiculturalism is black people have lost all hope in ourselves. We do not believe we can win. The hopelessness is deep, it is pervasive, and the pessimism is causing a holocaust psychologically amongst us as a people because very few of us think we can achieve. Most people think we can. And what do you do when you're on a sinking ship? You jump off.
That's right.
So I'll jump off being biracial. I'll jump off with a white wife. I'll jump off using my religion as an excuse. I'll jump off in anything that is available to me, because being black obviously ain't the way to go. Which is why it amazes me that so many African Americans are still multicultural, given the fact that none of these other cultures have ever come to your aid. What's going on right now? Donald Trump shut the borders down. He says certain people can't immigrate. Black folks is going crazy. Yes. He's discriminating against Arabs. He's discriminating against East Indians. Time out, time out. Have you done your research? Are you aware that most brothers and sisters in Africa could never get a visa to come here in the first place?
That's right.
So you crying about Arabs and East Indians who can't stand black folks, but you're not even dealing with the fact that our brothers and sisters in Africa, I had a brother wanted to come see me from Senegal. They never let him out the country. In Nigeria, it's almost impossible to get a visa to come to America. You got to win it in a lottery. So we up here crying about Arabs and East Indians. Don't get me wrong, I feel for them. If it's something being wrong done to another human family, I can respect that and I can wish them well. But I cannot fight for them because they have never fought for me.
That's right.
They have never fought for me.
Right.
The Arabs was trading slaves before the white man.
Yes.
The Indians were a part of the East African slave trade.
That's right.
The Chinese even had a hand in the slave trade. They never did.
Spanish
So
people
why
too,
you
although.
crying for everybody else
Except
but have
yourself.
no tears for yourself? Saturday, February 18th, Dr. Umar Johnson will be in Wilmington, Delaware. Police Athletic League, please come on out, bring the children. Doors open up at 1, program at 3 o'clock.
And you will do question and answer
Yes,
as well?
we will do question and answer. I will have copies of my book. I will have those I Am Nat Turner hoodies.
Wow.
Okay? Definitely, we're going to have the I Am Nat Turner
I'm
hoodies.
glad I got the book.
So make sure y'all come on out. The college tour is coming up, as I said, June 28th to July the 12th, 14 days and 14 nights. If you need to reach me, drumarjohnson.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dr. Umar Johnson. You can also email me directly, drumarjohnson@yahoo.com. Facebook, Dr. Umar Ifatunde. And if you need the flyer for the event, if you need the link to get your tickets, you can text 215-989-9858, 215-989-9858, or you can reach out to Sister Freedom.
Yes, you can reach out, and it'll be on my Facebook page as well. And there'll also be another phone number that you can contact either I or Dr. Umar to get tickets. Peace, freedom, and love. This was Talk Black to Me. Thank you for being with us this evening.